You're a University of South Carolina alumni. Just talking about where the love for music came from, your time at South Carolina. I'm sure you were playing then and it sort of evolved there. But when were you at Carolina and just kind of your path in music and how it tied in with USC and, like I said, your time in Columbia?
Yeah, man. My dad's a musician. I grew up with my old man. He's a school teacher, but when I was a kid, he was like a weekend warrior, so he was always playing all over. I grew up in Camden, South Carolina,
Oh,
so
yeah.
30, 40 minutes from Columbia. So, but my dad was always playing, and I played sports. I was never good enough to play at, South Carolina or anywhere like that. But I always grew up playing sports, and I didn't start playing guitar until I was about 15 or 16 years old. And just like everybody else that plays guitar, you find out girls like it. So if anybody tells you anything different, they're lying. Yeah, I started playing and singing, and then when I got to school at South Carolina, I was in school at South Carolina in the late '90s, early 2000s. So I was playing in the bars in 5 Points, and then like the Vista was just getting rocking back then. So, but I was playing at Sharky's and Pavlov's and Jungle Gyms when it was there. Those were the places. I think the first place I ever played was an old place called Rough Draft. I don't think it was gone probably by the time I was a sophomore or junior, but I think my freshman or sophomore year I played there, and I played for $25 an hour and beer, and it was awesome. And so yeah, man, that's where it all started for me. And of course, growing up in Camden, I've always I grew up listening to Gamecock football on the radio. Back when I was a kid, there was only 3 games on.
Bob Fulton, right? Bob Fulton.
Bob Fulton, man. And so I remember the calls of, I was a kid, but Todd Ellis, when he was actually the quarterback.
Yeah.
And so it's there's my love and passion for Gamecock sports and everything comes honest, and then the music side of it. Moving to Nashville, I moved to Nashville, from Columbia. I kind of realized pretty quick the Hootie Boys have always been very good to me, and I actually dated Mark Bryan's cousin when I was in high school when I was just playing sports. So that's how I met them a long time ago. And but Mark and Darius and those guys, they always told me that if I wanted to actually make any headway in the music business, like real headway, I had to write my own music. And when I started looking into songwriting, which I always kind of enjoyed, I realized Nashville was kind of the place to go. So I moved here. It'll be, I think, 20 years almost. I moved here right after I graduated, so in 2001, 2002. And so those boys were very big for me. And so I write songs for a living. I've done it for a long time. It's been good to me. And taking my love of Gamecock sports and my love of songwriting, and also the fact that I'm always a fan of, like, I call it talking blues, I guess, where you just kind of talk about, you talk about what's happening in the world and try to make, sometimes humorous looks at things. And Gamecock sports, especially football, you got to have a sense of humor, because if you don't,
Indeed.
you might be suicidal.
Indeed.
So that's kind of where everything stems from, me and the Gamecock stuff.
Now, when you said you started playing guitar like 15 or 16, was it something where you were naturally good at it? I mean, obviously you had to practice and get better, but like, did you kind of feel like you had a knack for it off the jump? Or I mean, was it just a lot of hours spent practicing, and that's kind of how?
Man, I wish I've actually always been pretty terrible on the guitar. My dad is a really great guitar player. Like, when I do my big band, Patrick Davis's Midnight Choir, if I do shows, my dad in South Carolina, he'll come out and play, and he's a guitar slinger. I always liked the songwriting aspect of it, so I kind of would learn, Neil Young songs, or back then, Dave Matthews songs, stuff like that. That was my thing, which isn't necessarily playing like Jimi Hendrix. It's more like just it's like Darius when he plays guitar. He's the guitar player and the singer. I was always kind of more prone to want to do that, and but I instantly kind of fell in love with the songwriting aspect of things. So I was, at that time, it was like Tom Petty. I knew all the classic Beatles songs, all that stuff, and those were the songs I like to sing and play at those parties. I was the guy in the corner, little kid with I had glasses back then, big glasses in the corner, probably weighed about 120 pounds soaking wet, and was about 6 feet tall, and no girls paid much attention to me until I started singing. I was like, oh, hey, hello here. So
cool.
Yeah, man, it was. But nowadays, I'm trying to get better at the guitar. But yeah, like anything else, it's just it's definitely the 10,000 hours is a real thing,
right?
And it just depends on what it is that you want to do. So for me, it was writing songs. So that's kind of the Nashville thing for me.